I'm the Big LG Doc Gallows, and you're watching the Wrestling Junkies. Boom.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Mr. Cincinnati. As always, I'm joined by that handsome devil podcast dad. Chips, how we doing, bud?
How's the hair today?
Fine.
Oh, man. Not a good hair day? Man,
It's
last
fine.
week you were hyping me up. I felt good.
I know. No, it's
good.
I mean, I'm gonna call it when I see it. And that was one worth calling. This is just some Monday hair. That's all.
All right. I'm gonna do it like this then. No, good, man. Good. Yeah, Rumble Fallout's crazy, but we are here and ready to go. We're going to run through the plugs real quick. Follow us everywhere, please. TikTok, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Yes, there it is. Follow us on YouTube. Hit the bell so you know when we're on, and then hit the subscribe while you're there, because why the hell not? And then what you can do is after you hit subscribe, after you hit the bell, after you watch us just one time, you can go tell one person, hey, there's some pretty cool guys. One's cooler than the other, but there's some pretty cool guys talking wrestling on the internet.
Don't be so hard on yourself, bud.
Go subscribe. I'm the cool one in this relationship. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
I've heard your dad noises. No, you're not. And follow our friends at the Main Event Wrestling Network while you're at it, at mainevent_net on all social media platforms. Brand new episode of the Dusty Finish dropped last night. Myself and the podcast dad got to hang out with Jay Gold, Mr. OTM, and the podcast son. It was a little bit of a heated conversation. It did get there, and I know that I got a little Charlie Chapped ass, and I apologize.
But hey,
you know what? It's gonna happen again. Like it is,
and we're allowed to have disagreements, but at the end of the day, you shake hands and you walk away.
One is cooler than the other. And hello, Fernando. Thank you for joining us. And hey, Mr. Ramsey, thank you as well. Always great to see you.
Mr. Ramsey.
And it was civil and great. No, it was.
There might have been an F-bomb.
It was theirs. Yeah.
You know, hey, we're passionate, and again, that's why you subscribe to this show, because we are passionate about wrestling and we want to keep growing. And the only way we can do that is with you guys.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But podcast that I think that they have heard enough from the Wrestling Junkies. I think that it is time to introduce our guests. If you are okay with that, is there anything else that we need to say right now for the good of the order before we introduce them?
Nope, I'm ready.
Love it, because so am I. And our next guest is someone whose journey doesn't fit neatly into a headline or a transaction wire. From NXT Level Up to weekly television, from injury and uncertainty to reinvention and purpose, he's lived the version of the wrestling dream that doesn't always get romanticized, but it absolutely deserves to be told. You may have known him as Big Body Javi. You may know him as simply Javi now. But what has not changed is the work ethic, the belief, and the refusal to disappear quietly. Since stepping into free agency, he's been honest about the grind, vocal about growth, and intentional about what comes next, taking notes from people who have walked that road before him, including Matt Cardona, one of the best examples of turning a release into a rebirth. This isn't just about looking backward. It's about understanding the process, the lessons, and the next chapter. So please welcome to the show, Core Kid Javi. Javi, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, man. Good. Thank you guys for having me. And that's an introduction I don't deserve. Thank you. That's very sweet of you. So thank you.
No, you deserve all of it. All those kind words. Yes.
I appreciate that.
So, Javi, let's get into it here. Before we talk about moments, before we talk about companies, how do you define yourself right now, both as a wrestler and a person?
As a wrestler, I think someone is good, man. I something that I learned very, very early on in my career, and somebody that as a friend of mine, Carmelo Hayes, he kind of told me, don't be so, it's good that you're humble, but don't be humble if you know you're good, and that's something that I've worked on, since he told me that. Like I said, we're friends, and I've got a bunch of friends that are still in WWE that kind of just keep going. Sometimes things work out in a way that you can't expect, or you don't know. You don't know anything about the future. All you can worry about is what you got going on right now. And so, how I describe myself as a wrestler, I think I'm a solid worker. I think I deserve I deserve a shot, and I think my career thus far has been like oh, who's that guy? Like I get a shot, and then it's kind of like, for whatever reason, it's it's there and then it's not. But then like when I do get the shot, like, oh, there's something, that guy has something. And it's something that I have learned to take pride in. It's something that I've learned to, man, I really did do everything that I could, and I went above and beyond the Call of Duty. There's a lot of things that people don't see when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to behind the scenes or whatever. A lot of people on the internet, think they know things because they read a lot, and that's fair. Like, the internet is so accessible to everybody. So obviously you hear something, it's on the internet, so it's got to be true, right? And I've one of those things, like I have a bunch of friends here, and I see. I hear things, I'm like, that's not right. I know that. So like, it's one of those things where I have to definitely keep my eyes on my own paper when it comes to, like, I don't want to read stuff about myself. Like, this guy's that, whatever. I'm a guy that I'm a guy that was good, that didn't get a chance. And that being said, I'm a young guy. I'm not even in my 30s yet. I haven't hit my wrestling prime, which is another 10, 12 years from now. So I haven't hit my wrestling prime yet. So, I've got, that being said, I want to, also keep in mind that anybody in this business always has a lot to learn. I can be confident in my abilities. I know that I'm good at talking. I know that I have great ideas. I know that I'm good at what I do within those ropes. But I know that there's always room for me to grow. And that's something that, on this journey that I've gotten so far, I've learned from the best in the world, in the Performance Center and before the Performance Center. But even now, being on the road, I learn so much, not only about, wrestling and how to navigate certain things, but I learn about myself as this journey too. I'll take a step back and we can get into that later. But you asked me about me as a person. Like, I'm outside of wrestling, I feel like I'm a very boring person. Like, me and my wife, I'm straight edge. So I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. So like, you look at me, I mean, the way that I look right now, most people assume that I'm a pothead, which is cool if you do that. I don't care. But like, hey man, you got something? I'm like, no man, I don't. Yeah. You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm usually the designated driver. But as a person, at home, I love going to concerts, and that's kind of about it as far as going out. But I don't, me and my wife, it's me, my wife Tatum, obviously. We have my dog Gorgeous. We got the Shiba Inu. Let's see if I don't know if he's moving around or anything. Oh no, he's over there. And then we got our cat Handsome. So that's our little family. Gorgeous is the apple of my eye. Handsome, I've learned to love Handsome. Handsome did not like me when me and my wife first met, but I think we've made a lot of headway with him. So, I'm very much a person that gives the shirt off my back, and that's something that I think that drew me to wrestling in the first place. When I was younger, I always saw, people like John Cena, people like Shawn Michaels, CM Punk, all the people that I grew up watching that are telling stories that are about, real life human things. But what always drew me was about helping people. What always drew me was, I guess, denying yourself for the good of others. And that's something that's always related to me. And even now on the indies, now I get to kind of control my narrative, control, what I do, and tell my story the way that I see fit, like the core kid stuff. That is really me. And I'm sure you guys will have questions about that, but that's kind of how I kind of got into it. I would go to concerts and people would be like, Big Body Javi, I didn't know you like, fucking Unearth. And I'm like, yeah, man, this is it. I love this stuff. And I'm like, oh, these are my people, but I didn't even know it, like, and not that I didn't know it, but like,
Sure.
I'm just like I'm like Batman and Bruce Wayne, like, big body Javi is Batman, and then
Yeah.
me in the concerts is Bruce Wayne,
What, Eric? I'm gonna go off the beaten path here because
That's all right. Yeah.
two things. Concerts. What bands are you into? As me kind of being a metalhead, what bands are you into? And then B, the other side of me is I am again it's not a gimmick, right? The podcast dad. I am also boring with my wife, my 2 kids, and my 3 cats. And I'm a sucker for a good love story. How did you and Tatum meet?
Cool. I'll start with the music stuff because that's easier. Unearth, obviously, was the band that got me to metalcore. I love Avenged Sevenfold. I know, like, that's a little bit of a hot take because some people are like, I don't know if that's metal or not. But like that's how I started. That's how I started. I don't care what they are. They're good music. But I started with their Wake in the Fallen album, so I guess where the metalcore stuff started with. So Avenged Sevenfold, Bullet for My Valentine, As I Lay Dying, Killswitch Engage. Unearth is a great band. I also have friends in Necrogoblicon. I'm friends with the band. They're all cool dudes. Goblin included. I'm friends with I can tell you about my theme song, but a local band called The High Ground, and another band called Not Enough Space. They're blowing up right now too. Anything metalcore I love. I love I love all the old school metal too. I love I loved I'm trying to hair metal and stuff like that. Pantera. That's not hair metal, but Pantera, they were hair metal. Pantera. My dad was a musician for 40 years and he played in rock bands and stuff like that. So I grew up as a baby on the road. So like I kind of was always around it and stuff like that. Yeah. So like I was always into like the harder stuff. My dad's like, oh, like this, metalcore, like this is my version of metalcore. And I'm like, but like bands like who's the one that the one that sings the song? I hear the song in my head. Here I Go Again. White Snake.
Yes.
Yeah. Bands like White Snake. I'm biting my tongue saying Steel Panther.
No, Steel Panther's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Guilty pleasure. It's funny. I'll get into the story about my wife, but I'll tell you a funny story. Steel Panther used my fucking theme song in like one of their behind the music videos. Like, so my NXT theme song was some generic track number 4. Like it was I hated it. And I was scrolling on my Instagram and I followed Steel Panther and I hear and I'm like, what the heck? And it was Steel Panther. And I was like, huh, all right. But no, I love Steel Panther.
That's a good guilty pleasure. I'm not mad at that.
They're phenomenal musicians, and their lyrical content doesn't relate to my life very much, but I still love it nonetheless. So about my wife, me and my wife actually went to a Steel Panther. I was one of the first concerts we went to, actually, ironically enough. But me and my wife met at our tryout in Vegas in 2021. That's where we met. It wasn't until like well after that we had gotten together and stuff like that. But we just kind of, we bonded over our music tastes. We bonded over very similar lifestyles. Like, I'd be in my apartment doing nothing. The most I'd do would go work out and, come home, watch, play video games, get on with the boys or something. But, that's, and she'd go home. She has her cat and, watch TV. And, our lifestyles have adjusted quite a bit, since being together. She used to go to bed at like 6 at night, and I'd go to bed at 2 a.m. regardless of whether I have to get up at 7 or if I have to get up at 10. So of course now she's like, now I have to stay up, for you. I'm like, well, yeah, now I have to go to bed at like midnight, which is early for me. So so it's like always this thing. But
you can tell you're married because of the compromise.
Yeah. Very much compromise.
Yes.
And it's an uphill battle there. But no, I'm kidding. But it's it was one of those situations where we find ourselves like, I was in our career paths are kind of similar. If you know us, like behind the scenes, like, you know, when I started doing the big body hobby stuff, you know, she was in Diamond Mine, and that's not like what she's doing now, obviously. And, you know, big body hobby. And that's, you know, that's wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, but it was a great start because a lot of it was my own stuff and all that. But our careers are very like aligned. And then, you know, hers, you know, she had to go through the struggle too. And, you know, like that's shown very well on TV until she had her breakout moment. So it was very much, you know, we both have hard work at big work ethics. You know, we're both people that we just come to each other with ideas and stuff like that, talk about wrestling all the time. And, you know, so, you know, some days I'm like, I want to come home and I don't want to talk about wrestling. And then some days
Sure.
she's like, yeah, let's watch, what was the show that we were watching not too long ago? We watch shows. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So we come home and we talk wrestling for a little bit, then, you know, cook and watch shows. So, you know, I love being on the road with her when you know, we do the coconuts and stuff like that. Those are memories that I cherish because I enjoy being on the road with her. It reminds me a lot of my mom and dad because, you know, like I said, being a road baby, being on the road, you know, like it just reminded me so much of my mom and dad because that's how my mom and dad met. My dad was a musician and they met on tour and stuff like that. And, you know, it very much reminds me of that. So, you know, I cherish the moments being on the road with my wife, and, you know, I foresee that happening again at some point. So
For sure. And you know, kind of speaking, you know, of those times on the road and in the system, you know, you go through the tryout, you sign with WWE. When you first entered the system, what in your mind was success? You know, just from, excuse me, just from that point of got the tryout, they like me, they're bringing me in. You know, what do those first couple of months look like for you as far as what you had in mind for your future there?
Honestly, like my mindset going on, I'm gonna main event WrestleMania, you know, like, and obviously that's every girl's dream that walks into that building. So I realize that I'm no different than anybody else in that regard. But, you know, that is success to me, or, you know, like, but then I peel back, I'm like, okay, let's get on TV first. And then I get on TV. All right. So now we have to get into a position where we want to be, you know, a top guy. And then from there, you know, or consistent hour, whatever it is. So, you know, at first you have these, you know, champagne dreams where you're like, main event WrestleMania, you know, and I thoroughly believe that, you know, that was possible. And I thoroughly believe that it is possible. I believe that I have every ability. I have every skill in my arsenal to do so. So it's one of those things that's definitely what success was to me. And to some degree, it obviously still is. But honestly, I want to make an impact with what I'm doing and all that. And I think that's the other thing too. That's the other side of me is like, you know, I want to be the person that I wish was there for, you know, for me when I was younger. You know, when I was younger, you know, like my dad was, you know, like I said, my mom and my dad, we were on the road as younger, but then, like, you know, growing up, you know, we were poor, you know, I remember times where we'd reach out to our, you know, Catholic charities, and we wouldn't, you know, because we were on the verge of homelessness, and, you know, nobody would help us. Right. And I always thought, you know, it's a weird thought for a kid to have. And I am very well aware of that. But it's like, you know, when I want to be the guy that people see on TV and like, man, that guy is a good guy. He helps people. Like, he sees people and he helps them. And I wish there was a guy like that for me, you know? And there wasn't, you know, I mean, not that they don't exist, but there wasn't in my own personal life. There was nobody there that, you know, would swoop up, you know, and I that was success to me, to be able to be one of those guys. You know, and I do my best in my everyday life, not to get all preachy or anything like that. But, you know, they always say, oh, give, you know, you tithe and you give 10% to the church or whatever. But to me, given the church is the people, like it's the guy that's on the sidewalk that is hungry. It's the guy on the median that's asking for money. Like, that to me is helping. You know, that to me is the church. That to me is like. And that's something that I always was my personal mission, to be like, you know, I want to be the guy people look up to. And I always thought, you know, kids, you know, like kids will see that you help, but then they see like this idealized vision of like, man, that guy is on TV, that guy's this, that, and he helped us out. holy shit, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And that to me was success. And that to me is success. The stuff that I'm doing now, the core kid stuff, you know, it's very much metalcore, and that's the, you know, the outside visual of it, and that's the essence of the character. But the character is very much someone who has, you know, can have mental health crises. Someone who grew up poor. Like I was a core kid, and I had to makeshift my own Avenged Sevenfold shirts. I used a press-on iron. I couldn't afford merch, so I had to use a press-on iron, and you know, like I had to use you know, hand-me-down hats so I could look like M Shadows. You know, I had to, you know, there were things. You know, my parents worked their ass off to make sure that we had everything that we could. But you know, like when you're poor, you have to make with what you got to do. You know. But in essence, you know, my character is very much for people that are picked on, are bullied, but people who their life just constantly kicks their ass. And I think I relate more to addicts than I do to people who have the perfect lives. You know, because life is tough. You know, life is tough, and it sucks when it sucks when people suck, and it sucks when people aren't there to kind of really help you. I know it's a long tangent to the question that you asked, so I apologize for that.
No.
But in essence, that's to me a success. Is like I want someone to be like, man, he reminds me of me. Like maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be successful. Like I want to give people hope, and you know, I feel like a lot in my scene, you know, there's not a lot of hope, or like that's the lyrical content, anyways. Like you know, like there's not hope, or you know, or like. There's a lot of emotional, you know, not mental illness, but yeah, mental illness, I guess. Like people get depressed, people get anxious, you know, and it's something that I don't mean to make myself out to be a savior of any kind of any sort, but it's something I want to tell people like, hey man, there's hope. And you know, if I lose hope, then I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. So like to me, I feel like I have a responsibility in how I carry myself, because sometimes I do get down. Sometimes like, man, that fucking sucked, you know, like you know. But I can't tell people keep your head up and keep grinding if I don't do it myself.
Makes sense for sure. Yeah.
Let's pivot here. Talk about the big body Javi character. Like it connected with fans like immediately, right?
Yeah.
What was it about that character that you were allowed to express that maybe you didn't have before?
You know, the way you see me is kind of how I am. Like I am very, you know, I'm not very confrontational. Like I will be, but like I'm not. You know, like I'm not someone that likes to be brash. I just like, you know, I'm like, hey man, let's chill. Like, you know, I'm very much a peacekeeper, and I'm very much, you know, like I said, I'm boring. I come home and I, you know, watch house flipping, right? I you know, that's what I do. But you know, like I said, I mentioned Steel Panther earlier. I'm a big fan of David Lee Roth, right? Huge fan of David Lee Roth. I love Van Halen. I love the music, and I love like the showmanship behind it. And I feel like if you see someone like that in real life, you're like, man, that guy's a douchebag. But because he's on stage, I'm like, that guy's cool, right? And for me, you know, Chris Jericho is someone I'm a huge. He inspired that character a lot. Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, that character, you know, was very much inspired by those two. Two of my favorites growing up. And I like the fact for Big Body Javi, what it was for me. Like I wanted to go two ways with it, because I'm the first Colombian American WWE superstar, but I don't want that to be necessarily my thing. You know, like you know, like great, I have a whole nother country that will rally behind me, but you know, I don't want to make that my thing. So what about me is me, and then I, you know, in high school and college, and you know, I was a running back, and I'm a bigger running back. I'm, you know, 6'1", over 200 pounds. So like for a running back, I'm a, you know, bigger guy. Mm-hmm. And I would hear big body a lot or something, or I have big thighs or whatever, you know, like, you know, so I was like, okay, you know, there's something there with that, you know, and where that comes from too, is that, you know, in WWE, everybody's big, right? Everybody's huge, unless you're Rey Mysterio, unless your specialty is like lucha or whatever. Everybody's big, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'm confident enough to call myself big. Nobody else is saying it, but I am, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be not just about that, but also like I could turn it into a body positive movement, like, or being a self-confident movement, you know. That whenever you walk into the room, you're the biggest in the room, no matter who's in the room, because of who you are. It's like a self-confident movement. So I wanted to I wanted something that could be like, you know, both baby face, both heel, something that you could put on a t-shirt, you know. And that to me was very, very cool to me, because the one like thing that really exploded Big Body Javi's character was one of my vignettes with or backstages with Mackenzie, the one with the Christmas products, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put myself over a little bit here.
Yes, please do.
I wrote that segment, and it's like that to me, you know, and it got, you know, I wrote it, and, you know, I did it, and then they you know, did their TV magic with it, and they, you know, adjusted and did it for TV. But I wrote the essence of that. We have these things in the Performance Center called promo class. Like everybody from, you know, me to the biggest star that you see on the main roster right now that went through the PC, all have gone through that, right? So I was like, you know, you remember those DX Christmas commercials? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something to that effect, but it's going to be me, right? And I was okay. BBC, that's funny. Okay, because, you know, not allowed to say that. BBW, that was the one that I didn't get to put on TV. I was a little upset about that. But BBC, I you know, so you know, I did the whole thing, and, you know, that's what exploded me. I that's one of my proudest. Like I hang my hat on. Like, man, I might have a mind for comedy at some point, but, you know, I have a mind for television, you know. And I just look back, I'm like, man, I got to say BBC on national television. Nobody said anything. That's sweet. So I mean, I still get people talking about that. And, you know, I remember when we do house show loops. That's all people would talk about. It's like, hey, do you got that BBC? I'm like, I got it for you later, man. Just meet me out back. You know? So I love doing that character because it's so outside of myself too. You know, I love comedy. I love sitcoms. And I know it's one of the cheesier, cornier parts about who I am. I love sitcoms. I love dumb shit like a regular show and stuff like that. So that kind of humor, dumb. But I also I'm a huge fan of stand-up comics, and I love you have to really listen for comedy, like BBC, like it stands out. But like, if you're not, you know, I want stuff where like, did he just say that? So it was fun to do stuff under Big Body Javi because it let me be creative outside of myself. And I felt like it took pressure off of, hey, there's this mission that I have. You know, I got to make sure that people take my words seriously, or I don't, you know, because it's just, at the end of the day, somebody calling themselves Big Body Javi is so funny. If you met that guy in real life, it's hilarious.
Yes.
And especially when, you know, not that I'm a small guy, but, you know, in the world of WWE, I'm not Big Show. I'm not the Great Khali. So it's perfect. It's like calling a bigger guy Smalls. I love it. It's you know, I love it. So it allowed me to just kind of have fun and not take things too seriously. It kind of, sometimes we realize with wrestling, there's a phrase in wrestling is easy, but wrestlers make it difficult. That is a phrase that I find myself reminding myself all the time. Not necessarily just me, it's just the whole industry. But like something that gives a little bit of lightness to the wrestling community, the wrestling world. I love it. That being said, I knew that it's not something that I want to do forever. I want something that, like, again, Chris Jericho is a perfect example because I was a big fan of him. I am a big fan of his. But like the WCW stuff that he was doing with the list, I did some version of that too, which was a lot of fun. But the WCW list and stuff like that. And then he turns out to be a serious guy who beats somebody's ass and tries to tempt them into drinking because their whole family lineage, him and CM Punk.
Yeah.
Like that's the duality of man. And that was him like, okay, I want to show that I have chops. I want to do that for sure. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely at some point I want to turn it up. So doing the big body hobby stuff was probably the most fun, light things. And, I can't say that I won't go back to it at some point. I can't say that maybe that there's 3 personalities to hobby. Who knows, right? And I think I'm creative enough at least to try that.
Sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an interesting character, and you mentioned that duality of man and all these opportunities that you got and you really, really ran with. So when you first found out that you're being released, what was kind of the first honest emotion that you felt? Not necessarily anything you may have shown publicly, but you're getting that call. What's it like in that moment, especially when WWE the releases are so routine that fans outside looking in, it's hard to kind of grasp the gravity of a situation like that.
I first when I got the call, it was in the shower washing my hair. As of course, life strikes us at various moments. So I saw the phone number. I'm like, all right, well, this is it. This is the moment I tell interviews. I say on interviews that I was washing my hair when I got this. And I got the call, and it was one of those things where like it's some nameless, faceless person that calls. They don't know who they don't really know who I am or anything like that. Yeah. It's just that I'm just a number on in a company that has hundreds of thousands of employees. So I for what it's hard to take things personally, at least as far as in the immediate. Excuse me. My initial thoughts, I felt numb. I felt very I don't know, like I didn't. My wife was crying a lot. My wife was taking it harder than I was at the time, and it was one of those things you think about putting on a brave face as a husband, because you have to try to think about, okay, well, how am I going to make things okay? Things have to be okay. I have to make sure that they're okay. And there was an essence of me that's bitter, Of course, anyone's going to feel bitter, and especially if they feel like there's meat on the bones with what they are and what they're doing. I was just getting started on doing this whole other character, and for those that were watching my career at the time, came back and I was doing big body Javi, but it was like this big body Javi come to Jesus, where I wasn't big body Javi where everybody hated me. I was big body Javi. I was like, okay, we love him because he's Javi. And I was doing this like kind of come to Jesus, kind of this, recovering drug addict. I love those storylines because it's real. There's people out there that, big body Javi's not a good guy. Big body Javi is a jerk. He did things, he said things, he was a very bad person, but something happened in his life that caused him to rethink and reevaluate his person and who he is. And to me, I love telling that story, and I just felt that, okay, well, now we finally transitioned to the metalcore stuff, and I have a match, and as Core Kid Javi, although I didn't call myself that there, but Core Kid Javi, I win, I get attacked. I'm like, okay, these are the plans that are going through, and then all of a sudden, the next week of stuff, I didn't have anything. I'm like, it's weird. I'm in the middle of something. Is anything going on? They kind of assured me, like, no, we just I wouldn't overthink it. I was kind of told, like, yeah, if your name was, I know you're probably thinking about release and stuff like that, but if you're if you think that's what it is, I haven't heard anything. I haven't, there's it would be weird. So I felt a little bit of, I don't know if comfort, but I just felt like, oh, okay, so it's just, they're just restructuring stuff with my storyline. So I one of the things that I think that I felt when I got released was like, I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to show everybody what I'm capable of, what they missed out on, and I'm going to rebuild myself. And I think, obviously there's like, man, I wish I was still there so I could show them, like when I got released. And then there's this bitterness. And then there's also a little sense of relief, right? I, in some ways, felt very frustrated because I did a lot when I was injured to come back.
Yeah.
For those that know what my theme song sounds like now, I was writing that theme song for WWE for me. Me and my buddy from the High Ground band here in Orlando. Me and Matt, I said, here's what I want. I played him a riff. I played him a couple things. It's kind of what I want. And, I wrote the lyrics that, I think relate to people. I think there's a lot of, a lot behind it. And I wrote the song and I recorded it. I had a demo and I gave it to WWE and I said, hey, we just have to mix and master it, but this is a demo. This is what we got. What do we do here? Because obviously people have done their own music before. People have recorded their own vocals before. There are people still that have done that. So like, why can't it be me? This is who I am. This is the real me. And this is, and it was one of those things. You're like, oh, legal stuff, blah, 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 blah. But I did so much work reinventing myself. I did so much work thinking about, okay, when I come back, I am going to have a killer run. And I think I would have. I came back during a dark match before TV. And I made a post about this recently because it's been about a year since then. I made a post and it reminded me like, I didn't get the special come back home moment. I didn't get the coming soon, vignettes or anything like that. But when I came back, I got a standing ovation from the people that come to the shows every week. I got a standing ovation. I got welcome home, welcome back chants, and it felt really special. And people related to me. And I think part of it lends to like, yeah, the big body Javi stuff. It was fun and it was cute and all that. But at the end of the day, it connected with people. And I feel when you connect with people want to be a part of your community. People want to be a part of what you're doing. And I think that me coming back and hearing all those people were happy to see me back was definitely one of those moments that made me feel good about what I was doing. And I guess thinking back to my release, I was like, man, what is it that I'm not doing? That look the people. I was gone for 9 months, and all these people seem to remember me. All these people seem to want me back, despite I was a bad guy. But they wanted to see me back. I feign to say it, but I was bitter when I got released, absolutely, because sure. I felt like, man, what more do I have to do to prove myself? And I get it's a numbers game. I get, there's no shade whatsoever, because WWE, because it's a machine. It's going to keep running. They're going to find their stars, and not, and like I said, I have no doubt that I'm going to be doing a lot of big things in wrestling. I have no doubt whatsoever. So to me, after a while, it's like, okay, I have to keep with that mentality. I have to keep going, because I can preach all this stuff about being positive, the whole metalcore thing about being emotional, about being vulnerable. There's strength in vulnerable. I can't preach being vulnerable if I'm not vulnerable with the people that look up to me. I can't preach, going through things and putting your nose to the grindstone if I don't do it for the people that look up to me. And I think that the indie grind is a perfect way to describe that, for one. But two, I'm having crazy matches. I'm having really fun, really good matches. And I think part of it is that there's like a bit of a leash taken off. There's a bit of like do what you know how to do. You have all the freedom in the world. Do what you want to do. And I think it's paying dividends. That I'm getting out and going to do what I do. I'm getting these opportunities to go and doing what I do, what I know how to do. I feel like wrestling is the only thing I'm qualified for. I truly feel I'm not really qualified. I'm only qualified to entertain people. That's all I'm good for.
And you talk about that mentality and reinvention. Someone that did that very, very well, and someone you spoke to was Matt Cardona. What advice did he give you, and what takeaways did you have from those conversations?
Matt Cardona. So I had a conversation with Matt Cardona before I ever got really like a year and a half before I got released. And he's one of those things. I related a lot to his YouTube stuff. I remember when I was younger, I watched his YouTube channel. The Long Island IC. And I was thrilled when he got on TV because I thought I think he's great. That goes without saying, but I think he's great. I think he was great. And he is great. And a lot of it was the same thing. Like keep pushing, keep plugging social media, keep doing everything you can to put yourself over. If you don't get time to do what you want, make your own time. You have social media. You have the most people have the most access to you now than any other time in the world. And he's totally right. One of the things that he speaks to very highly and very well is leveraging social media, leveraging not only who he is as a former WWE guy, going to do a death match. That was probably one of the biggest independent matches in the last I don't know how long. That's a huge deal for some guy that for a WWE superstar to be doing a death match that creates buzz, and I think he knows his audience. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's smart, and I can only model what I'm doing after himself. I don't know if I'll be doing any death matches anytime soon, but like I said, the advice that I've taken from him is always making sure I stay on social media. I hate social media. I hate being on it. The only thing I would keep is TikTok. I'm a dumb idiot. I like scrolling on my phone, but beyond that, I would delete all of my social media. If I had someone else run it for me, that'd be great. But I need to stay current on the wrestling stuff. I need to keep myself relevant. I need to put out videos. Like I said, the moment I stop creating things is the moment I disappear from the wrestling world, the wrestling universe. So that's something that I definitely take into consideration that he has, he preaches about all the time, is staying consistent and being, doing things to stay relevant.
Very well said. Again, massive reinvention, and he took that opportunity and didn't look back. But Javi, I want to get the chats here real quick. Got a couple of questions for you here. Justin wants to know, and you've kind of talked about this a little bit. Do you plan on touring the indie circuit? You've been at Reality of Wrestling. We've seen you in TNA a little bit, Black Label Pro. But let everybody know what you've got coming up. Sounds like you got a big 2026 ahead.
I've got a pretty busy month, a month or so. I'm trying to stay busy all year round, but in this next month, I think the next thing I'm doing will be in California. I think it's in Championship Wrestling in California. And then I'll be in Blitzkrieg Pro in Massachusetts. Then I have something in New York that same week. Maybe something in Rhode Island. Then I'll be in Minnesota. I'm looking at my schedule right now. I'm trying to remember where I'm at here. I'll be, like you said, I'll be in Indiana for Black Label. I'll be in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Championship Wrestling, New York. I'll be in like 7 or 8 different states in the next few weeks here.
There you go. There you go. There's the answer to that question.
Dude, I'll say this much, man. Being on the road is much more home to me than just staying home. Like, I love being home, especially with my wife and my dog. But like, I feel like I am so used to being on the road. People are like, I hate flying. I'm like, it's just flying to me at this point,
Yeah. So as we wind this down, we like to ask all of our guests this final question, and this can be inside the ring, outside the ring, however you want to take it. Javi, what are you most proud of?
Most proud of is that I don't compromise on my morals or who I am. Right now, I think that life has tested me quite a bit. In particular, the last 2 or 3 years of my life. I going through that injury that I had that took me out. I'll give you a little bit of history. I had that injury and all that. I wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to walk down the aisle of my wedding because I broke my foot and had all the surgeries and all that. There and then everybody has car issues. I had car issues, this, that, and the other, and then I had to get a new car. A month later, I get into a car accident, which also happened to be the day before I got released. And I just feel like life was constantly kicking me in the ass. I wasn't where I wanted to be with the stuff that I was doing. I felt like I had a lot more to give. And I think despite life kicking me in the ass, that I've remained who I was, who I am, being a good guy and not hurting people. Because I would tell my wife sometimes, like, man, maybe I need to start being a dick. Maybe that's how I get rewarded. Maybe I need to like this. They're just speaking to life in general. It feels like in life, good people are always getting the short end of the stick. I felt like I would see my friends, in my personal life. I see my, friends in my professional life, and I mean, it seems like good people get their ass kicked all the fucking time. And excuse my French, but it's something I feel passionately about because I feel like I feel like, man, all I want to do is good for this world. I want to be, wrestling is great, and I love wrestling. I love entertaining, but at the end of the day, I want people to look up to me because in the ring, man, that guy's good and he tells a good story, and that story relates to me. And outside the ring, he lives that story. Outside the ring, he does help. I think the thing that I'm proud of most is that I'm just not fucking dead yet. I'm not quitting. Like this. That's it. I say this, and this is somewhat of a tagline for me, that I'm limitless fucking potential. That's the short end of it. I'm a very loyal man, and anybody that gives me a chance, I will be loyal to. And it doesn't matter who it is, whether it was WWE, TNA, AEW, whatever. I'm gonna be I'm a loyal guy that I know what I'm capable of, and everyone's gonna say that, but I mean it. I feel like this is the only thing that I'm qualified for. And on top of that, because of that, I think it makes it more difficult that I try to remain who I am or who I'm going to be. Not to go off script too much, but like me and my wife watched the documentary, The Perfect Neighbor. It was a tragedy that happened a couple years ago, and I fucking cried. It was the worst thing in the world. And I'm the reason I'm saying it for a reason, so I'll get to the point in a minute. But
of course,
it tore my fucking heart out. I watched that kid cry, and I'm on the verge of tears right now thinking about it. And that happened here in Florida. That happened here, maybe an hour, 2 hours away from here. As soon as I finished watching that documentary, I got on Twitter. I'm like, if anybody has any connections to that family, please let me know. And that's the stuff that I want to do with my wrestling. Because I think, man, wouldn't it be cool if those kids, like, man, life's been kicking our ass, but maybe we get a chance to just be a kid for a day. Maybe we get to go hang out with the wrestler. Yeah. We'll go to the fucking water parks or something, and that's what I want. The larger point in this is that it's, I guess maybe some awareness for that particular. Something about it struck me. It drew me to that. And if anybody listening to this has any connections or know how I can get in contact with that family, please let me know. But that's the stuff that I want to be doing. I want, like, man, that guy took the time out of his schedule to come to me, and life's kicking me in the ass. But guess what, man? That guy that's what wrestling is to me. That's what entertaining is. Like, holy shit, there's so much fucking going on in the world that I realize that I can't cover everything, but I can do good in the world. And my reputation as an individual my reputation as a wrestler and as an individual. That's all I want my wrestling to. I said this in my post that I made about, I felt for a long time that I was just serving other people with my career. But I realize now that I'm always going to be serving somebody. But it's at this point in my career and moving forward for the next 25 years, God willing that I have a career for the next 25 years in this business, that I'm going to be serving the people that are watching. That's who I want to serve. That's living a life of service. That's an important thing for me. At the end of the day, what I'm most proud of is that I still am chasing after that. That has been the mission since I was a kid. And that's the mission that I want to chase after. Yeah, I want to main event WrestleMania, and cool, it'd be a notch in my belt. It would be a cool moment, and I could say that I did that shit. And it would mean the world to me. But it would mean even more so if the guy that main evented WrestleMania came and visited the kid that I was when I was 12 years old on the verge of homelessness. That's what matters to me, and that's what makes me proud of. That's what I take pride in so far of what I've done in my short 26, about to be 27 next week life. So that would, in a very long-winded answer, and I apologize for going.
Absolutely.
No, it's okay. No,
but that in essence is what I'm most proud of.
Podcast Ed, I can't think of a better way to end this episode tonight. I mean, I think that's the perfect note to leave it on.
I apologize for the long-winded stuff. I know I yap a lot. So.
No, do not apologize for that. That's what we love around here. And Javi, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. As we kind of wrap up our episode here tonight, where can everybody find you on social media?
If you want to find me on social media, everything on Instagram, on Twitter, or X, on TikTok, and on Twitch. It is Core Kid Javi, COREKIDJIVI. And if you want to book me, it's the javibooking@gmail.com, or any of my DMs is fine too. You can find me anywhere. I'm an old man when it comes to DMs, so if you DM me, it might take 10 to 15 business days, but I'm sure I'll find it at some point. So
that's quite all right. It was an absolute pleasure, and thank you to everybody that joined us tonight. Remember to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, X and TikTok at Junkies Pod. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Junkies Pod. But that is going to do it for us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be breaking down Monday Night Raw. The road to WrestleMania officially begins, and Podcast Dad has had a lot of thoughts about Gunther over the weekend. Let's see if Raw does anything to either change or enhance those thoughts. It remains to be seen. But thank you to everybody that joined us in the comments tonight. We appreciate everybody that took the time to tune in and hang out with us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern with a new episode. Javi, stick around for just a quick second, but that is going to do it for us tonight. This has been the Wrestling Junkies podcast, and until tomorrow, enjoy those grabs, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.